new jerseys, a pre-draft update from the GM, and 2 former Bruins captains going into the Hall of Fame. Lots to talk about today, so let's get into it.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked Bee. Today is Thursday, June 26th. Thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins your first listen every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today we have quite a lot to talk about. We have the official reveal of the Bruins' new look for 2025, 26, and beyond, going back to the future with the just 80s, 90s look that I fell in love with as a kid. One of the reasons I became a Bruins fan. So we'll break that all down. We'll touch on what we learned from Don Sweeney at his pre-NHL entry draft media availability on Wednesday. And we'll also discuss Zdeno Chara, Joe Thornton being named to the Hockey Hall of Fame, which we didn't talk about yesterday because, of course, the podcast featured my chat with NESN analyst Andy Brickley. If you haven't caught that conversation yet, I encourage you to go back and check it out because it was a great chat with Brick. Before we get into today's topics, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. That's X, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, even TikTok. And you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes, at Ian C. McLaren. I am a lifelong Boston Bruins fan, and I've been covering this team for various outlets for about 20 years now. And on Wednesday, the Bruins released the full look at not only just the new logo, but the new jerseys, and they delivered it in unforgettable fashion. They had posted a teaser on their social channels on Tuesday night with pictures of Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly, Bobby Orr, and in the video posted by the team, they actually had Charlie McAvoy in full old man makeup coming in like Biff Tannen, wearing or delivering the team's brand new jersey to none other than Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly himself, star of Back to the Future, with a framed photo of, again, himself and Bobby Orr in the background, no less. Now, for me, growing up in the 80s, 90s, two things were very true. I was a huge Bruins fan and loved watching Cam Neely, Ray Bourque, Andy Brickley, and others, even Don Sweeney, rocking that clean black with the gold Spoked Bee jersey on the road at that point. They wore whites at home still. And I was also a massive Back to the Future fan. Like, forget Star Wars as the best trilogy of all time. I was a Back to the Future kid. And to have the new old style Bruins jerseys delivered to Michael J. Fox by Charlie McAvoy, who was made up to look like an old kind of Biff Tannen character who had come back in the movies to deliver the almanac. You know how it goes in that movie, Back to the Future 2. It was just so fun to watch that. And it made me want to watch those movies again, but it also got me extremely excited, and props to Charlie McAvoy for being willing to put on all that makeup, delivering Colin Farrell as the Penguin-esque performance in terms of just unrecognizability, acting prowess, and the message in all of this was clear. The future of the franchise is rooted in its past. The Bruins We're going with this refreshed tandem of Spoked B logos and 2 brand new uniforms created in partnership with Fanatics and the NHL. And Cam Neely summed it up perfectly. Team president Cam Neely saying next season marks the start of a new chapter in Boston Bruins history, combining some fan favorite elements from the past, a refreshed style. These sweaters are going to look sharp on TD Garden ice in the fall. The new primary mark blends the vintage spokes worn by legends like Orr, Bork, Neely himself, with the Serif Varsity B introduced in 2007, and the team will now wear 2 versions of the Spoke B, a dark background version on home jerseys and a light background version on the road. This is the first time the Bruins have used a split logo system on home and away sweaters since the mid-1990s. I'm personally a huge fan of the one they will wear on the black jerseys, the gold spoked B with the gold outline, black spokes. I personally love that one the most. It's not the only thing that is changing, though. There's a new shoulder patch featuring a crawling bear silhouette. It's a modern take on the design from the Bruins' very first jersey in 1924. It reads Bruins at home, Boston on the road. So there's no more brown bear, no more meth bear, no more Pooh Bear. It is that crawling bear silhouette with Bruins at home, Boston on the road. The striping is tweaked a little more to mirror the bold looks from the 80s and 90s. Gold accents on the gloves, updated word marks on the pants, round out the refresh. And there's even hem loop labels, which are personalized: Boston for home, Bruins for the road. And the marketing slogan, as introduced the other day, built by Boston, powered by tradition. It's a tribute to the fans, the city, 100 plus years of legacy that the Spoked B represents. Side notes, Rapid 7 remains the jersey patch sponsor. TD Bank will continue to be the official helmet partner for another 20 years. And I know a lot of you are so excited to get your hands on this new look. I'm not personally a huge jersey guy. I have a couple from when I was a kid. I got a Cam Neely stitched jersey when I was like 12 years old for Christmas. I'm more of a hat and jersey kind of guy. It's going to be very difficult to not grab a new hat, although I do have 2 with this gold Spoke to be. Nevertheless, jerseys look so clean, and I know a lot of fans are getting excited, and it's a great time to introduce this rebrand after a very down season. Gets fans excited about something ahead of the draft and free agency. And while the new look dominated headlines, Don Sweeney held court with the media on Wednesday to talk about the state of the roster, the number 7 pick, pending contract decisions, and we'll discuss 5 key storylines to watch from that availability here as the podcast continues. Do you ever wish managing money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Talk about savings. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, so New Jerseys, fantastic reveal. Back to the Future. I got to watch those movies again this summer with the boys. Now we look to the actual future. NHL Draft, first round, tomorrow night. And Don Sweeney held a media availability on Wednesday to kind of tee up where they stand heading into the NHL draft. And he began by congratulating both Zdeno Chara and Joe Thornton for making it into the Hall of Fame. We'll touch on that later in the podcast. One of the big things was Morgan Geekie. The Bruins re-signed Mason Lohrei to a 2-year, $3.2 million per season contract with the defenseman. Now their attention turns to Morgan Geekie, who's coming off a 33-goal, 59-point season. Sweeney said there's been ongoing dialogue with Geekie's camp, but negotiations haven't hit the finish line. He said, "Are we on the doorstep?" I don't think so, but that can change within one phone call. Geekie is a restricted free agent, and while arbitration is technically an option, Sweeney's not seeing that as a concern. He said they're treating it the same way with Jeremy Swayman last year. We value the asset. We're going to find a deal. Now, hearkening back to Jeremy Swayman last year may not be the best comp at the moment. It's still very fresh in Bruins fans' minds that Linus Ullmark was traded with the expectation that Jeremy Swayman would be signed like ASAP. But when he was traded, all the leverage went to Jeremy Swayman, who had an extended negotiation process, which didn't end until the end of training camp, causing him to miss all of that and get off to a rough start that kind of dragged through the season. The Bruins don't want to have that happen with Morgan Geekie. Whether it's a short-term bridge or something with more term, Don Sweeney is confident that Geekie will be in the fold in the fall, but we've kind of heard that song and dance before with respect to, again, Jeremy Swayman, with respect to prioritizing bringing Brad Marchand back before he was traded. Until he is signed, I'm still going to have some misgivings about it and wonder what the holdup is, how far apart they are, and what it's going to take for this to get resolved. We know traditionally the Bruins come in low with their offers. Geekie's probably, looking at what, say, JJ Peterka got last night from the Utah Mammoth after being traded. Hasn't scored 30 goals yet, but he's got like a $7.7 million AAV now. Morgan Geekie, a 33-goal season. What's he worth? We'd like to see him replicate that, of course. But at the same time, you got to lock him down when you have an opportunity. When it comes to the draft, Sweeney was clear. The Bruins will take the best available, not the best fit by position. He said they're not married to positions. Some players identify as centers. Others don't care. They just want to be top 6 players. So whether it's a pure center or a guy who could play the wing, I'm not thinking defenseman because there is such a bevy of high-skilled forwards in the top 10. There's still some rumblings that James Higgins could drop down to 7. On tomorrow's podcast, we'll do a full draft preview and look at some of the final mocks going around the internet right now. The Bruins are still evaluating potential trade up or trade down options, but feel confident using the pick if no deal materializes. The Bruins aren't chasing quick fixes, Don Sweeney said. When it comes to trades or free agent signings, he made it clear that they're looking for players with runway. They will jump at that. Short-term acquisitions aren't necessarily the focus right now. The Bruins are aiming to add the right players at the right time to strengthen their top 9 and won't, say, trade the number 7 pick for an aging out veteran or whatever. There have been rumblings, of course, about the Bruins looking to deal perhaps with the New York Islanders, Noah Dobson. Pajot, I don't necessarily love that, and we'll see here what happens prior to the draft if indeed they decide to hold on to it. I think that is the best thing to do. And he said you never know what happens in terms of the draft, whether there's movement around the league. We saw the trade last night with the Sabres and the Mammoth. He says he thinks there will be movement, teams with multiple picks that have volume of picks that they can shuffle around. Future draft picks of the Bruins have 2 firsts next year, 2 firsts in 2027. That could be used perhaps, but again, they remain committed to taking the best available player. Guys who can play on the wing, who could be a center down the road. Centers carry a lot of weight. Some players are adamant, no, I don't want to play wing, I'm center. Other players that really don't care, they consider themselves top 6 players or top line players, and that's where they want to play and play with the best players. So maybe that is the way to go. What else did Don Sweeney have to say? Well, again, in terms of defensive depth, the Bruins have a clear need on the right side of the defense. Sweeney confirmed they are still discussing with Henri Jokiharju about a possible return there. He said, we have a need on the right side. There's no question about that. Bringing Jokiharju back would offer a stabilizing presence without necessarily blocking younger talent like Victor Soderstrom from claiming a spot. Sweeney, maybe we'll touch on this more tomorrow, but was asked about 2024 first-round pick Dean Letourneau and how he struggled in his freshman year at Boston College. Sweeney admitted the leap for him was bigger than expected. Maybe he would have benefited from another year in the USHL. It was a reality check, Sweeney said, but hopefully he'll be better for it. Letourneau has the size and the tools, but his production didn't translate. Sweeney expects him to rebound now that he understands the pace, preparation needed at that level. And he said exactly about Letourneau that maybe another year of the USHL would have been beneficial, and that, it was kind of a disappointing year for him in terms of his development. I think those were the major points from yesterday's availability. I know a lot of people made something about his comments on Brad Marchand. He said, my only comment that I'll make is I've exchanged texts to congratulate Brad. Beyond that, he's a player on another team, so I have zero comment on that regard. He deserves congratulations along with the Florida Panthers. A lot of people took that to mean he's just another player on another team. Who cares about him? It's in the past. But I don't know what else he could have said. He exchanged texts with Brad on a personal level, but the reality is Brad Marchand is still a member of the Florida Panthers, and as a GM of the Boston Bruins, he can't make any comment on Brad Marchand's future because that would be seen as tampering. So there really is no other option there. The biggest takeaway was Morgan Geekie. They're not on the doorstep. And while the draft free agency coming up doesn't mean his attention isn't on Morgan and being able to close out a deal, but they have time in that he's an RFA, can't sign with another team, perhaps prone to an offer sheet, but I doubt it. And hopefully they can get something done soon without having to resort to arbitration, because we all know that can be kind of ugly. He talked about Mason Lohrei continuing to grow his offensive game while also having some runway to work on his defense. 2-year deal, hopefully with, not playing those heavy defensive minutes that he was carrying this past year in the absence of Hampus Lindholm and Charlie McAvoy. He did say he believes they're still an attractive team to be considering if you're a free agent. There's going to be opportunities in the top 9 in particular. So he doesn't believe teams will write off the Bruins because they had a down year. They're looking to add, again, to the top six. They need help on the wings, perhaps help down the middle on defense. I mean, this team needs to get better in a lot of areas, and we'll see what happens here at the draft and heading into free agency. And again, tomorrow we will do a full preview of the draft and who you can expect the Bruins to grab at the 7th overall pick. Coming up to wrap up today, we're going to discuss Zdeno Chara, Joe Thornton being named to the Hockey Hall of Fame. All right, guys, most likely you've heard about Viagra, Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, in 15 minutes, and effects can last up to 36 hours. So you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to rougiette.com/LockedOnNHL and use code LockedOnNHL to get 15% off. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL. Use promo code LockedOnNHL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please review the Rougiette website for full safety information. Some big Bruins-related news dropped on Tuesday that we were not able to talk about extensively then because of my interview yesterday with Andy Brickley, but massive honor for one of the most iconic Bruins of all time, as well as another former captain who achieved greater success post his Bruins tenure. First of all, Zdeno Chara. Let's just take a minute to appreciate how massive his career was, both literally and physically. 1,680 NHL games, most ever by a defenseman. 209 goals, 680 points with a 301 plus rating. Stanley Cup champion in 2011, first Bruins captain to lift the cup since 1972. He won the Norris Trophy in 2009. 6-time NHL All-Star, 14 seasons in Boston, including over 1,000 games as captain, and represented Slovakia in 3 Olympics, 7 World Championships, and 2 World Cups. Cam Neely praised his unparalleled combination of size, strength, and ability, while Charlie Jacobs noted how Chara set an example for what it means to be a Boston Bruin for generations to come. Cannot say enough about how grateful I am for Zdeno Chara's tenure with the Boston Bruins. Don't forget, he was a free agent signing. What was it? It was like 19 years ago. July 1st, 2006, after the Ottawa Senators, for whatever reason, decided not to re-up with him. The Bruins signed him to a $37.5 million 5-year contract, also bringing in Marc Savard at the time, and that really signaled a shift in culture, tone, and trajectory for this team. And Zdeno Chara, I was having a bit of a debate yesterday on X about whether or not he truly finished his career in Boston because, of course, he was offered a lesser role with the Bruins late in his career. He went on to play for the Capitals and the Islanders before signing a 1-day contract. But to win a Norris Trophy, beating out Nick Lidstrom and Mike Green after a 50-point season, that tells you how good he was. These days, you're really bound to a more explosive offensive season. But he re-upped with the Bruins, captained them to a Game 7 win over the Vancouver Canucks, won the Marc Messier Leadership Award, fastest shot with the flag bearer for Slovakia in 2014. Just an unreal career for Zdeno Chara. And, of course, Game 5, Stanley Cup Final, playing with a broken jaw in 2019. Unfortunately, they lost 2 of the 3 games that he played with that broken jaw. But still, what an accomplishment. What a moment. And again, for him to go into the Hall of Fame, just an absolute no-brainer. One of the best defensemen of this era. One of the greatest Boston Bruins in franchise history. To be a captain of the Bruins, to lift the cup. It's something that Ray Bourque never did. It's something that Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand were not able to do. And the fact that he was captain speaks volumes about his leadership. And there were videos posted with Charlie McAvoy, David Pastrnak, just singing his praises, how much he taught them. His impact is lasting. And I hope he's back in some capacity down the road with this team. Joe Thornton, also a part of this year's Hall of Fame class. There's a stark contrast in how the Bruins celebrated the two. They didn't mention it, but Sweeney gave him a polite shout out. Kind of silent on his induction, a sign that the fallout from that infamous 2005 trade still lingers to this day. Marco Sturm, even at his introductory press conference, was like, that trade wasn't my fault. Don't mention that. Don't put that on me. But his on-ice resume is undeniable. Hart Trophy in 2006, the year or the season in which he was traded from the Bruins to the San Jose Sharks. What a duo he created there with Patrick Marleau. They went to the Stanley Cup Final, lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins, but all Joe Thornton did was play a huge game physically, offensively, and his personality as well was unmatched as a hockey player. He just loved the game so much. He was my favorite Bruin there for a time. I was gutted when he was traded, but he went on to have a Hall of Fame career elsewhere, and congratulations to him. I'm very excited to see both of them being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Next year, Patrice Bergeron is eligible, lock for a first ballot Hall of Famer as well. New uniforms, number 7 overall draft pick, cap space to burn next week, living legend heading to the Hall of Fame. Bruins are navigating some change on all fronts, and we should all be excited for what's next. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, follow Locked On Boston Bruins on your favorite podcast app for more coverage leading up to the NHL Draft and free agency. Don't forget to check out the Locked On NHL podcast as your second listen. No offseason around here. We're bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.